is the owner and general manager of your Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Kevin, Corey, good to be on with you guys, and nervous, getting ready for Sunday.
Okay, I'm glad that you said that because I am nervous as well. Is there anything in particular you will do over the next 2.5 days to calm your nerves?
I'll keep a close eye on McCarthy, make sure he's strong and ready to go. But other than that, and right now there's no change in anything he's going to be doing, and he's been able to really effectuate the practices this week. So we haven't missed a beat out there, and so we'll be business as usual from that coaching standpoint. But I'll make sure that he doesn't need to take a seat down there on the sideline someplace. I remember Barry Switzer had a back problem. Now, it was the Pro Bowl over in Hawaii, which wasn't a regular game, but Barry went over and sat down on the bench while the game was going on at the Pro Bowl. And but he was suffering from a terrible pain at that time, back problems. But that's the only other time I've had a involvement in your coach maybe having some limitations on the sideline.
When we mentioned the appendicitis on air, everybody who's ever had that immediately texted in and goes, oh my gosh, that pain is terrible and that can be really serious. I know he's okay, but was there any worry in the moment when you're like, hey, he's got to go get surgery right now?
Well, I think I'm just concerned about immediately go to his immediate well-being and his health. And you're absolutely right. Anytime you have surgery, I think is serious enough for concern. And that manifests itself a lot of ways. I know when I had mine out, you stayed in the hospital 10 days. So it was a hospitalized thing automatically for a length of time. Mine had ruptured while I was in college. And frankly, I had bouts of terrible nausea. I remember we played Texas A&M. And I was so weak that I couldn't even go in or couldn't even get dressed. And they said, well, you're the only one that knows the plays behind Tommy Brazier, who's a great pro coach later on. And he gets hurt the first play. And I was so weak and nausea that I couldn't even think about playing. Well, I ran out there and played, graded out the best game I ever played the best I'd ever played. It all went away when you hit the heat of the action.
Jerry, I know a lot of things happen very quickly, but is there a plan in place in case he's like, look, I just can't make it through this? I know he's back in the building, and is that something y'all start working on today, or is there already something in place for if something was to happen during the game?
No, every of all the things you're familiar with, probably the succession or who's going to take over a duty with coaches is about as well thought out and planned as anything you'll ever see. And it is literally planned down to the gnats, you know what. Mm-hmm, and that's something that was in place but even before he had this issue with appendicitis.
I know Kevin asked what you're going to do to kind of calm your nerves, and it sounds like you're focusing on the work, Jerry. I'll just drink some bourbon if that's okay. Does that work? That I can drink some bourbon during this time?
Well, you remind me of one real bad year I was having, and an owner that I really do respect. I was talking with him, and he had called and said, I want to talk to you about the bad season you're having. And he said, I've got some advice for you. And I said, okay, here goes. I'm getting a lot of advice lately. He said, drink a lot. Mm-hmm. So that was his anecdote to having a bad season.
But here we are in a good season, Kevin.
Yes,
yeah,
okay.
We're in a good season right now.
That's true. That's true. And this is a good season. The Cowboys are on a winning streak. Obviously, the Eagles are at the top of the division. I know this is a huge rivalry game anyway. You've got dueling MVP candidates. It feels like the whole season has been leading up to this moment, this Sunday, does it not?
Well, I think when you have as much at stake, you have very legitimate positioning and a real advantage as to getting a bye in the playoffs, those type of things. I don't believe you draw it up where, short of having to go home and your season is over if you lose, which is the case in the playoff, I don't think you can put any more out there. And that's what we have. And, boy, we recognize what an outstanding team. Their record speaks for itself. Parcells' great line, "You are what you are." And their record speaks for themselves. And they're that kind of team. For us to go out here and beat them, it's going to have to be a Herculean effort. It can be. We can do it, of course. And if we do, we'll have the uplift and we'll have the rewards that go with that.
Hey, Jerry, I just wanted to follow up real quick. Is the order then that Dan Quinn would come down to the sideline and then like Schottenheimer would be the play caller there?
Those are details that I'm sure the moment, the time that you're in, but they may change that during the game. Who knows? Okay,
all right. When you see Deron Bland getting picked on a little bit, but then also still converting interceptions, do you think that like this player personally is now taking it personal, and he's seeing that the league is starting to try and challenge him even more?
Well, there's no question that your more accomplished players get more attention, and all you would do is sit in a game planning session, and you'll see the highlighted players that get special blocking, or in the case of they just get the recognition they deserve to be that type of player, and that usually loosens it up someplace else. Now, and so that's how you have to adjust. When you see one that's being double teamed a lot, Michael Parsons, for instance, with us, then you got to be putting the pressure on them. They've given up something to get that done. And so if Bland is picked on, or if Bland is stayed away from, we've got to adjust and take what they give us.
Clearly, Micah Parsons, you just referenced, having an amazing season. On the flip side, Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Jalen Carter, the Eagles are pretty formidable on their defensive front. How do you feel the Cowboys' offensive line is playing right now, and how do you feel like they match up Sunday night?
Well, we've got a good read. We played them, a month ago? And but anyway, we've got a good read on what our challenges are, and I would expect some adjustments that they will have made. But in general, I think we're going to match up pretty well. And at Cox is a Hall of Famer, and he's always given us a lot of problems. But I think that the kind of things that we're doing, the kind of things they're doing, motion's been giving us a lot of problems, pre-snap motion. They're not a big pre-snap motion team, but they might have gotten that way since they watched the success that Seattle had against us with pre-snap motion.
Jerry, the Michael Gallup's targets have been down of recent, and it makes sense. CeeDee Lamb's targets have been very high. His numbers have been there. Is it fair that, like, there are a lot of Cowboys fans out there that have been talking about this, texting into the show? Is it fair to want more out of what Gallup's production's been?
Well, I think so. I think Gallup's best is the deep ball, and he high points the ball, and he makes those catches, contested catches. He can make them deep. That's Dak's one of Dak's very best qualities is a deep ball, and the way he throws it deep, it loops, has a good arc on it. Gallup was made to catch that ball and can go up and get it. Those are plays that can really be meaningful. They have been for Gallup and Dak in the past. Let's get some more of them.
Do you have any theories then as to why that has not particularly been the case this year?
I don't know that there's any theory. You've just got to catch the ball has to be where he can get up and get it. And when it is, he's got to come down with it. And again, it's not that they don't know that. When I say it's coaches and the players, they all know this. And so we've got a lot of options to go. Our tight end situation's really coming around. We've got what I think to be as good a receiving threat as we've had in quite some time. Well, that's got to do with Dak, but it's got to do with those receivers as well. They're running crisper, better routes. They're running through their routes so that if they don't get the ball, they've got the defensive guys trying to cover them, which opens it up for somebody else. So I'm pretty pleased right now with the way the passing game's going.
I know you got the opportunity to talk with Sean and RJ on Tuesday about Shaq Leonard. I'm curious, have you moved on from that? Are you still a little frustrated that he went to your rivals? And what do you anticipate from him on Sunday?
Well, they're not going to let me move on from it because exactly as you put it, he's going to be playing more than likely. Right. And and he will be better for them or they wouldn't have brought him on the team. So, but I haven't moved up front. Well, I'm going to get to watch it Sunday.
It's like what could have been a girlfriend showing up at your bar every single time, man.
Yeah.
All right,
well, well, let's don't go that far.
Jerry, we've been asking this question all week, and I think we use the term hate, but dislike is a term that you can also use. When was the moment that you realized that the Philly fan base was different, and maybe you disliked that bunch?
Well, I did it early. There's some pretty good fans up there, and they've kind of got a culture, a way of expressing themselves that has a lot of directness to it, and I'm going to call it directness. But I remember I used to go up there with a great educator named Father Tribute, and his family lived there, so he went with us. Every time we played in Philadelphia, he would go with us, and he'd walk with me up through as I'd go to our place where we watched the game, and as I'd go to and from the field, he would be walking with my group. And, of course, that was a lot of fun because invariably a bunch of those fans would say, "You're talking about an arrogant so-and-so." Said, "Look at him. He's got his own priest walking with him when he comes down through there." And, of course, Father Tribute and I both would act to that and just rub it in.
So all the trash they talk, you're like, you know what? I can give it back just as much as them.
Oh, I do. Stephen won't even walk with me.
Well,
he said, you're gonna get soaked with beer and you're gonna get stuff, hot dogs thrown. He said, "I'm not even gonna walk with you, but I have fun with him."
With that in mind, and I know there's a lot of great rivalries in the NFL, especially with how high level these teams have been for the last couple of years. Do you view Cowboys-Eagles as the best current rivalry in the NFL?
Of course, you know how biased this answer is going to be, and I think anything that draws a lot of emotion out of me, it would be my own experiences. I love to play Philadelphia outside our division. The Raiders are a great group to play with, play against, and we've had some great games with that. I've gone right down and almost gotten up in the stands with the great bunch of Raiders dressed up down there every way from Sunday, and of course they're going to tear you limb from limb, and when you get up close, they're doctors, lawyers, business guys having more fun than anybody. But so I just go right up in there and visit with them.
That's a good approach, man. That is a good approach. Go kill them with kindness or get back at them just a little bit.
Well, I'm not so sure I'm being kind with what I'm saying, but they're telling me where they're going to put their if they're wearing some kind of pirate or something like that, the Raiders or something like that. They're telling me where they're going to put that, and I'm telling me what I'm going to put where I put it.
I appreciate you censoring that for our show.
Jerry
Thank
knows
you.
what he's doing.
Thank
He knows
you.
what he's doing here. Now, one of the things that's kind of buzzing right now is there's a big-time free agent in baseball, Jerry, and the contract number looks like it could be $600 million. And I was just kind of curious, do you ever see a point, or have you been shocked by the amount of dollars? Like, that's more than $500 million right there going to one player. Do you ever see the NFL getting that type of contracts?
Well, I, for obvious reasons, won't be specific at all. The dollars that are involved in sport today have exceeded anything I could have ever imagined, and on any basis, any place. And it's like Bob Costa. Bob Costa told me before he was going on this new show that he had, he said, I want you to be on my first show, and I'm going to do it at the Super Bowl in Indianapolis. I'm going to ask you some tough questions. And he said, the first one I'm going to ask you is about concussion, and the next one is about whether or not you've been up front with everybody and players and fans about concussion. And then he said, the next thing I'm going to do is ask you about what you charge for beer. I said, boy, you're a real friend. I don't know if I'm going to be on this show or not, but I do appreciate you telling me what you're going to ask. He started with the one about the price of beer. And I was ready for him, and I said, Bob, I said, he was talking about how much it costs today as opposed to a beer 30 years ago. I said, Bob, we used to be able to get a guy like yourself for about $25,000 to $50,000 a year back then. Do you want to tell these fans how much you're making now?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
He had to go touche. We didn't get it, but things have gone up to be trite, and those numbers are unbelievable. I know that's exactly the number that a lot of people thought when we built AT&T Stadium. That AT&T Stadium, if costs really got out of hand, and if we built the kind of stadium I wanted to build, they said that stadium was going to cost you $600 million. And there were a lot in the NFL that just said, no way. That's gone so far out of sight. And, of course, it didn't cost $600 million. It cost twice that. It cost $1 billion, too. But who would know that a relative few years later, 10 or 12 years later, they'd spend over $4 billion on the stadium out in L.A. and are likely to spend that on the next two stadiums that are built. So things have elevated, and we all know why.
Appreciate the insight as always, and obviously we're all hyped up for Sunday night rooting for them Cowboys. Thank you very much, sir.
Good to be on with you guys, and thanks for tolerating. I'm doing the same thing. I'm just nervously biding these hours away.
Go give them hell.
There you go.
Go give them hell, Jerry.